She just passed away. What? The stunned look on David's face as he stared at me, standing in the doorway, was forever etched in my mind. He seemed unable to grasp the sudden news of our daughter's death. What are you talking about? Stop with the cruel pranks. That's a terrible joke. Who is he to say such a thing? David mocked me as I stood there, soaked from the rain. It's not a lie. How could you let this happen? I'll handle the funeral arrangements, so please stay away from the house for a while. Goodbye. Seeing me trembling from head to toe, David finally seemed to realize the gravity of the situation, leaning back in shock and muttering, "Is this for real?" But his reaction seemed so distant, so detached, it grated on my nerves. I turned on my heel, rage burning inside me. I'll never forgive him. I'll make sure he pays, even if I have to drag him to hell myself. My name is Juliana Bridges. I'm 38 years old and work at an advertising agency. Our family consists of my husband David and our 8-year-old daughter, Mia. We aren't rich, but we lead a comfortable life. That's because the ad agency I work for pays well. Even compared to my peers with office jobs, I earn a hefty salary. I've never had to worry about spending money each month. And we've even been able to save up for Mia's college tuition. Considering the cost of living and our home mortgage, we've always had some extra money left over. David was well aware of my high salary, and perhaps his pride was hurt because a year ago he quit his job and started freelancing in web design. He said he switched to freelancing because his salaried job had hit its pay ceiling, but I was skeptical about how much one could really earn as a freelancer. Of course, I objected when he said he wanted to quit. I thought it would be safer to stay in his job, get his full retirement benefits, and then think about other options. But David was adamant about freelancing, so that's what he did. Ever since he began freelancing, David has been working from home. Maybe his stated reason for quitting his job was just a cover, and he was really tired of the office politics. Either way, I had to get used to a new routine where David was always home when I left for work. At first, Mia seemed happy that her dad was always at home when she came back from school, but lately, she seemed somewhat discontented. She probably feels like she's being constantly watched. She's only 8, but Mia is more mature than her classmates. So our life was going along without any major issues, but I didn't notice that the cracks started appearing when David began working from home. When David started working from home, I asked him if he could help a little with the household chores. Can you help with things like cleaning and laundry? I'll still cook the meals like I always have. Excuse me, why do I have to do housework? You're home more, and you have more free time. It'd be nice if you could help out a bit when you're not too tired. Please? Just because I'm a freelancer doesn't mean I'm not busy. In fact, I've got a lot on my plate. I can't deal with household stuff on top of that. Unbelievable. David just brushed aside my modest request. I understand that freelancing can be more unstable and mentally taxing compared to a regular salaried job. That's one reason why I didn't want him to switch in the first place. But household chores are nobody's specific job, and I've been doing them all alone, even though we've both been working. I thought he could share some of the load. But I work too, you know. It should be equal. You've managed everything by yourself up until now. Don't start complaining now. David, who was convinced he was in the right, wouldn't listen to me at all. In the end, I continued to handle all the household chores as usual. I don't assume he's not busy just because he works from home. But whenever I return home, late at night, I'd invariably find David sprawled in front of the TV or deeply engrossed in his smartphone. Is dinner ready? He'd ask with an air of entitlement, which always infuriated me. What's more, since working from home, he seemed to become more concerned about cleanliness, always demanding that I clean the house more thoroughly, pointing out every little piece of dirt on the floor, the windows, and the bathroom. If you're so concerned, why don't you clean it up yourself? I'm only human, I can't get to everything. I'd reply. You talking back to me? Clean up your own mess. It's our family's home. It's not like I'm the only one making it dirty. Yet, David would go off on these bizarre tangents and I was utterly baffled by his logic. Mia would quietly listen to our exchanges from a distance. You know, Dad's always glued to his phone. I wish we could go out together on weekends, but Daddy's always busy on his phone, Mia said one Sunday morning as I was preparing breakfast. Apparently, Mia had asked David to go out and play the previous evening, but he'd refused, barely looking up from his phone. That's true, he's always on that phone, I acknowledged. He's been like that since before I come home from work. Sometimes he's on calls too. Calls? Yeah. He always sounds friendly. It seemed like David was talking to a client or a colleague. I tried to think of who he could be talking to so frequently as a freelancer. I was unfamiliar with the world of freelancing, so I didn't know, but the mention of a woman's voice was definitely bothering me. Could he be having an affair? It wasn't unthinkable. He had started working from home only a few months ago, and he now had more free time than when he had a regular job. Trying to not let Mia see my agitation, I focused on preparing breakfast. Several months had passed since David started freelancing. He still never helped with any of the household chores, and he began spending whole days away from home during the weekends. I have work to do. Freelancers don't get days off, he'd say as he left the house, dressed sharper than usual, even wearing cologne and accessories he didn't normally use. I had my suspicions, but with no evidence, confronting him would be pointless. Besides, even if David was cheating, I was torn about what I should do. I knew it would be better to part ways, but thinking of Mia, it wasn't an easy decision. Every day I agonized over the potential consequences for Mia of taking her father away from her. Our lives continued in this way, but a turning point was soon to come. One Monday morning, as I was preparing for work, Mia didn't get up as usual, and I was getting anxious that she'd be late for school. Mia, it's morning. You need to get up, or you'll be late for school, I said as I went to her room to wake her up. She looked completely drained, and I rushed to her side, placing my hand on her forehead. You're burning up, Mia. Yeah, she replied weakly. I got a thermometer and took her temperature, which read 103 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what to do. I can't take the day off today. I have an important meeting. While I was panicking, David entered the room. What happened? He asked. David, Mia's running a high fever. I can't take the day off from work today. Maybe we should call a babysitter? A babysitter? I'll take care of her. What? Just let her rest, right? I can make her some soup. It'll be fine. I was utterly taken aback by David's sudden willingness to take care of Mia. David, who had never lifted a finger to help with household chores or child rearing, was now offering to care for our daughter when she was sick. Unbelievable. Though I found it hard to believe, I decided to trust him given the urgency of the situation. Alright, thank you. There's some fruit in the fridge. Give her some if she feels like eating. Got it. Relieved by David's reassuring response, I hurriedly got ready and left the house. I was deeply concerned about Mia, but arriving at work on time was my top priority for the moment. By the time I reached my office in New York, the skies had darkened and it had started to rain. It had started raining. Fortunately, I had a foldable umbrella with me, so I reached the office without getting wet. The meeting began in the afternoon as scheduled, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mia. The office was abuzz due to the sound of heavy rain and strong winds from outside. Come to think of it, wasn't there news about a hurricane approaching? I'd been so busy lately that I hadn't been keeping up with the weather updates. But I remembered a warning about a hurricane making landfall tonight. During the meeting, all of my colleagues, including myself, were constantly distracted by the storm outside, frequently glancing out the windows. By 7 p.m., when I was finally done with work and heading home, the earlier storm had turned into a torrential downpour, causing several train delays. The train I was supposed to catch was also delayed, and the platform was packed with people. I was really worried about Mia, who was running a high fever and couldn't bear the thought of waiting there. I hurriedly left the station and began looking for a taxi. There were many others waiting for taxis too, so it took quite a while, but after about 30 minutes, I finally managed to hail one. After a 30-minute ride, I arrived home, but was speechless at the sight that greeted me. Mia! To my horror, Mia was lying unconscious in front of our entrance. I quickly scooped her up. Mia, are you okay? What happened? Daddy? Seeing me might have comforted her, as after she whispered Daddy, She just slumped, looking exhausted. Despite being drenched in rain, her body was burning up. I turned to the taxi I had just gotten off from, and knocked on the window. "I'm sorry, I need you again. Please take us to the nearest hospital." Seeing Mia's condition and my desperation, the driver quickly opened the door. Understanding the gravity of the situation, I quickly hopped into the taxi. "I need to get to the nearest hospital, fast. Mia." Throughout the ride, I kept calling out to Mia. I felt that if I didn't, something terrible might happen to her. I desperately wanted to know why she was outside in the first place, especially during a storm. But right now, saving her was more important. Despite the heavy rain and the slow-moving traffic, we finally reached the hospital. "Ma'am, do take care, especially if you're heading back in this storm," the kind taxi driver said as he dropped us off. "Thank you so much." With a kind-hearted driver seeing me off, I rushed Mia to the hospital. Even though the hospital was busy with many patients, the receptionist quickly realized the urgency upon seeing Mia's condition and got her immediate attention. 30 minutes later, a doctor finally examined Mia, informing me that she was semi-conscious due to a high fever. Thankfully, she had no physical injuries. If her fever reduced, she should be okay. However, given that she had apparently been outside in the rain for hours with that fever, she had to be admitted immediately. "Mia, I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better soon," a nurse said. "We'll take good care of her. You should rest today." "Thank you." After spending 5 hours at the hospital, endlessly staring at Mia's pained face as she slept, a nurse finally approached me. Though I wanted to stay by Mia's side, I was exhausted both physically and mentally. Having worked all day and then seeing Mia in this state, I was spent. I decided it was best to let the nurses handle it and head home. Everything that happened to Mia was undoubtedly David's fault. Mia murmured "Daddy" before passing out, which was evidence enough. It was inconceivable that Mia, with such a high fever, would willingly go outside, especially not during a storm. The more I thought about what David had done, the angrier I became, unable to comprehend or forgive him. All the way home I pondered what to say to him. If he hears that Mia is okay, he might think it's all right to continue with his reckless behavior in the future. I absolutely don't want that to happen. I needed him to deeply reflect on his actions, even more than feeling remorse. With a certain resolve, I headed home. When I arrived, wet from the rain, David was casually fiddling with his smartphone. Noticing me, he looked up in surprise. "Hey, where's Mia? Wasn't she sleeping at the entrance?" he asked. "She said she wanted to play outside. I told her not to, but she wouldn't listen." Seeing David ask that with such nonchalance made my anger boil over. Mia went out on her own? He's the one who tossed her out in the first place, I thought to myself as I clenched my fists tightly. "She just passed away," I replied. "What?" David stared at me with a dumbfounded look, a look that burned into my memory. The shock of hearing that his daughter had died seemed too much for him to grasp. "What are you talking about?" "Stop playing sick jokes. That's in bad taste," he said, trying to mock me as I stood there drenched from the rain. "It's not a lie. What have you done?" I said, my voice shaking with rage. "I'll handle the funeral arrangements, so stay away from the house for a while. Goodbye." Seeing me so angry, it finally hit David how serious the situation was, and he blurted out, "Are you for real?" But his reaction seemed so detached, as if it was happening to someone else, which only irritated me even more. I turned on my heels, the fury inside me blazing. I won't ever forgive him. "I'll drag him down," I thought to myself as I walked away. "I'll drag him down to hell if I have to." I stormed out of the house and headed straight for a hotel. I managed to find a vacant hotel and decided to stay there for a while. Although it would cost me, now wasn't the time to worry about money. I wanted to get back at David. If he felt remorse and changed his ways after hearing about Mia's death, I might reconsider my approach. But seeing that he didn't call or message me that day, it was clear he couldn't care less about what happened to Mia. This only fueled my anger further, and I began to devise a plan to make him pay. The next morning, I woke up and immediately headed to the hospital. I got word that Mia had regained consciousness. "Mia, are you okay?" "Lan, yeah, I'm fine now. My fever's gone down. Oh, thank goodness." I hugged Mia tightly and gently stroked her head. She giggled as if tickled by the gesture. Relishing the joy of Mia's return, I eventually pressed her for the truth. "Mia, what happened yesterday?" "Daddy kicked me out." "I knew it. He said I was in the way and told me to leave. Then a woman came in and they chatted like they were close." "A woman? What did she look like?" "I didn't get a good look, but she was young. She had bright red nails and wore skinny heels. I couldn't believe it. David was having an affair. Not only did he bring his mistress home on a day Mia had a high fever, but he also locked his own daughter outside. It was beyond comprehension. How could he do something so horrible?" "I'm sorry, Mia. That must have been terrifying." "Yeah, but I was happy you came to save me." "Mia!" For David to put Mia through such trauma and think he could be happy with his mistress, it was unforgivable. I felt a burning rage consuming me. "By the way, Daddy said he's going to invite that lady over again next Sunday." "Next Sunday? That's the day I'm supposed to go on the company trip. He's planning to spend a fun day with his mistress while I'm away." I was appalled, but it strengthened my resolve. "Thanks for telling me." I patted Mia's back, vowing to get back at David. The following Sunday, I decided to take Mia and return home. I informed my company that due to personal reasons, I wouldn't be able to attend the trip. After Mia was discharged, we had been staying at the hotel together. It had been a while since we were home, but as we approached the front door, it felt like we were entering someone else's house. "We're home." When Mia and I entered the house, like usual, sure enough, there were unfamiliar high heels at the entrance, just as Mia had said. The thought of David and his mistress enjoying themselves deeper in the house made my skin crawl. David wasn't in the living room, so I headed to the bedroom. Thinking that Mia might witness something too intense, I hesitated for a moment, but the room was quiet. As I listened closely, I could hear David's voice coming from the bedroom. "You know, it really worked out for me. With Mia gone, it made breaking up easier. How can you say such a thing about your own daughter?" But yeah, for me it was kind of lucky. Hearing the two of them talking about Mia's supposed death as if it was a good thing or lucky made my head spin. It was clear now. David didn't feel an ounce of remorse. If that's the case, it's time to confront him directly. "Excuse us. Oh, you have a guest?" When Mia and I appeared after opening the bedroom door, the two of them were taken aback with wide eyes. "Why the hell are you here?" "You said you were on a company trip. And why is Mia here?" "What do you mean? Wasn't Mia supposed to be dead?" I suppose it would be quite shocking to see Mia, who they believed to be dead, standing right in front of them. I explained calmly. "The part about Mia being dead was a lie. I'm sorry. I just wanted to see your reaction. I hoped you might show some remorse, but instead, you're here celebrating Mia's supposed death." "That's just insane. A lie? Damn it, you played with my feelings? Don't mess with me. You're the one who kicked Mia out of the house, right?" "No, I didn't. Daddy did kick me out. He said I was in the way. Because he wanted to be with that woman." With Mia's swift revelation, David's face turned pale. "That's right. You did the worst possible thing. Not just as a father, but as a human being. Mia was in such a condition that it wouldn't have been surprising if she had died. And you prioritized being with that woman over her?" Pointing at the woman who had been silently watching our confrontation, I exclaimed, "Oh, calling her my mistress? That's not right. She's a colleague from work." "What? Wait. Didn't you say you quit your job and you're freelancing now?" Caught off guard, David's hasty lie inadvertently confirmed she was indeed his mistress. "Well, we don't really need to ask her now, do we? Here's the evidence of your affair." Private investigators are quite something. They gathered this much evidence in just a week. I handed a large envelope to David. "That's right. After hearing about David's affair from Mia, I decided to conduct a thorough investigation, but I never imagined the evidence would accumulate so quickly. It seems like David isn't very good at hiding things." Hesitantly, David opened the envelope, and as he pulled out the photos, he dropped them, scattering the evidence of his affair all over the floor. "This is so unfair. Do you enjoy cornering someone like this and putting them in a situation where they can't escape?" Even though he was entirely at fault, David tried to paint me as the villain, which I couldn't understand at all. I pulled out the business card of a divorce lawyer I had stashed in my bag and handed it to David. Unfair? Who's the real coward here? I see no value in staying with someone so thoughtless any longer. Let's get a divorce. David's eyes widened as he stared at the business card. If he truly wanted to be with his mistress, he should have been willing to accept the divorce easily. Oh, and by the way, once we're separated, you'll of course be responsible for asset division and child support, David. And I'll make sure to inform your company and your parents about everything. Be prepared for that. I glanced at the woman, his affair partner, when I said you. Why me? I didn't know anything about this. Don't you now? You destroyed a family with your actions. You have to take responsibility. The mistress began to panic and messed up her hair. Both Mia and I watched her coldly. Mia, still a child, seemed to understand what was going on and held my hand tightly. If you don't have the money, find a way to get it. You two are in love, right? You should be able to overcome this together. Just never show up in front of Mia and me again. I'll give you the house, but you're still responsible for the mortgage. Wait. David tried to protest, but I pulled Mia away. Yes, Mia is going to lose her father, but I have no regrets. I won't put Mia in harm's way ever again. We'll do our best from now on, okay, Mia? Yeah. Mia looked surprisingly happy, which put me at ease. I decided to go back to my childhood home with Mia and stay there for a while. My parents were livid with David for cheating and putting Mia through such pain, to the point where they felt like giving David a piece of their mind. But I managed to calm them down and avoid further issues. You can stay here as long as you need. Both my mom and dad seemed pleased that we had come, and Mia was thrilled to see her beloved grandparents. For now, everything seemed all right. As for David, he got a lawyer and managed to settle the child support and asset division in one payment. I couldn't imagine David having millions saved up, so he probably took on some debt. And with the remaining mortgage to pay off, David must be stretched pretty thin right now. A coworker from my company who went to high school with David updated me about him. Apparently he ended up breaking up with his mistress. David had boasted to her about having money, so when the truth came out, they quickly parted ways. David's income was already halved from what he used to make as a salaried employee, so it's understandable. Now, in addition to his freelance work, he's scrambling with various part-time jobs. After losing his wife, daughter, and mistress, David will probably live a frugal life, paying off his debts. He got what he deserved. I hope he learns from his hardships and regrets his actions. Mommy, today at school, I made Grandparents' Day gifts for Grandma and Grandpa. Really? Let's give it to them later, together. Okay. Seeing Mia so lively and happy, even without David around, made me feel content. From now on, I'm gonna move forward, at my own pace with Mia by my side.